Ucrania, las fuerzas rusas siguen atacando diferentes puntos desde los que se facilita la exportación del grano a los países más necesitados. Esta última noche, las tropas de Vladimir Putin pusieron su objetivo sobre la ciudad portuaria de Odesa, donde lanzaron una gran ofensiva que terminó dañando gravemente las instalaciones del lugar. Precisamente desde Madrid, Pau Mosquera nos acompaña con más detalles. Pau, cuéntanos qué consecuencias ha tenido este ataque y qué otras ofensivas se han producido en las últimas horas.
Buenas tardes, Alejandra. Las autoridades ucranianas hablan de un ataque masivo contra la ciudad de Odesa, en el sur de Ucrania. Una ofensiva que habría sido lanzada desde portamisiles y submarinos rusos localizados en el Mar Negro y que habrían tenido como objetivo, entre otros, la infraestructura portuaria de esta localidad. Recuerden, el punto desde el que se está exportando gran parte de ese grano tan necesario para muchos países. Las autoridades informan que hasta el momento habría al menos 2 fallecidos y una persona herida. Decenas de casas habrían resultado dañadas en los suburbios de la ciudad y al menos 1 millar de usuarios seguirían a esta hora sin suministro eléctrico. Desde el Ministerio de Defensa ucraniano hablan de un patético intento de represalia por parte de las filas de Putin tras el ataque ucraniano que tuvo lugar este viernes contra el cuartel general de la flota rusa en el Mar Negro. Ahora bien, esta no ha sido la única ofensiva rusa que se ha producido a lo largo de las últimas horas y que han denunciado desde el ejército ucraniano. Ayer domingo también hablaban de que al menos 2 bombas habrían impactado en la ciudad de Jersón, causando graves daños en infraestructura industrial y en algunas casas particulares, y en total en toda la región habrían dejado al menos 2 fallecidos y otros 9 heridos. Pero también Rusia a lo largo de las últimas horas ha acusado a Ucrania de intentar perpetrar ataques contra algunas de las ciudades que controlan. Concretamente, de que a lo largo de esta noche habrían derribado al menos 4 drones que volaban por el noroeste del Mar Negro, encima de la península de Crimea, y otros 2 que habrían sido derribados en el distrito de Briansk, que eso es al oeste de Rusia. Alejandra.
Pau, ¿cómo siguen las relaciones entre Polonia y Ucrania a raíz de la polémica por la exportación del grano ucraniano al resto de la Unión Europea?
Fíjate que sigue habiendo bastante tensión entre Kiev y Varsovia, pero como ya demostró a finales de la semana anterior, el presidente de Polonia, Andrzej Duda, sigue intentando rebajar esa tensión. Concretamente, ayer domingo informaba que ya tendrían preparados los corredores de tránsito para permitir que esta materia vegetal pueda pasar por el país y así ser destinada a aquellas naciones que más lo necesitan. En cualquier caso, siguen dejando claro desde Polonia que mantendrán el veto a importar grano ucraniano para así intentar proteger a los agricultores. Una situación que, como bien decimos, están intentando suavizar, aunque queda ver cómo se materializará este transporte del grano. Alejandra.
19 months into its war, Ukraine claiming a major blow against Russia. Ukrainian special forces say the commander of Russia's Black Sea Fleet was killed in last week's attack on Sebastopol in Crimea. Let's get you straight to CNN's Frederick Pleitkin, who is in eastern Ukraine. And we are just getting word of this. What do we know at this point?
Yeah, this comes from Ukrainian military intelligence, Becky, and they're saying that in that strike on the Black Sea Fleet headquarters, which of course happened in the early morning hours of this past Friday, and that really hit that headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet there, the Ukrainians are saying that 34 senior officers, as they put it, of the Black Sea Fleet were killed, including the commander of the Black Sea Fleet, who's an admiral called Viktor Sokolov. The Ukrainians are saying that he was killed in that strike. Of course, you'll recall that after that strike took place, there was some video that emerged on social media. The Black Sea Fleet headquarters, very close actually to the town of Sebastopol, to the center of the town of Sebastopol. Many people, of course, had their phones out, may have been filming. It certainly seemed as though there were cruise missiles that hit that Black Sea Fleet headquarters. The Russians, at that point in time, only acknowledged that 1 Russian soldier was missing, as was presumably killed. They did acknowledge, as they put it, that the historic headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet had been hit, but had not said that officers had been killed. Now, we do have to say, Becky, that at this point in time, the Ukrainians have not put forward any evidence to firm up the fact that Admiral Sokolov may have been killed. It's very difficult, obviously, to confirm that. We ourselves have not been able to independently confirm that. We have been trying to get in touch with the Russian Defense Ministry about this. And earlier today, there was a call with journalists by the spokesman for the Kremlin, Dmitry Peskov, where this was also not talked about. So right now, we don't have any sort of confirmation or indications about this from the Russians. Nevertheless, of course, a big claim by the Ukrainians, and it came as there were a range of strikes on Sebastopol and the area around Sebastopol in this past week by the Ukrainians. Them, of course, hitting a submarine that was in the dry dock there in Sebastopol, also hitting a landing ship called the Minsk, which was outside of the port of Sebastopol. The Ukrainians also saying there that a lot of sailors were killed on that ship as they claimed that it was about to set sail for a mission. So certainly the Ukrainians this past week putting pressure on the Russian Black Sea Fleet, putting pressure on the Russians in occupied Crimea, now coming up with this big claim. But again, at this point in time, all of this not confirmed, Becky.
Ukraine and Russia are accusing each other of launching aerial attacks overnight. Russian officials say they have destroyed several Ukrainian drones over the Black Sea and occupied Crimea, but a few of them damaged buildings in the Kursk region. Well, meantime, Ukraine says Russia fired more than 30 drones and missiles on the Odesa region. Officials say most were shot down, but Russia did hit Odessa's port infrastructure and caused a fire at a hotel that was not in operation. And while the attacks happened after the Ukrainian president wrapped up a trip to the U.S. and Canada, where he secured additional support, including an agreement between Kyiv and Washington to produce weapons together.
We have a historical decision by the U.S. to jointly produce weapons and defense systems, including air defense. This is something that was an absolute fantasy until recently, but it will become a reality. We will make it a reality.
CNN's Claire Sebastian is following all the developments from London. A good day, Claire. A terrifying night in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, good morning, Leila. I think, look, it's important to understand the context around Odessa because this, Ukraine's third largest city, has been under pretty regular bombardment since July when Russia pulled out of that Black Sea grain initiative. We see this morning the damage fairly significant. A passenger terminal was destroyed, according to Ukraine, a hotel nearby, fires, also granaries hit as well, grain storage facilities. So clearly this is part of a pattern. Odessa has been hit multiple times now. This comes as Ukraine is trying to unilaterally provide safe maritime corridors for ships to get its grain out to world market. It also comes as Russia itself is exporting record volumes of wheat, so essentially profiting from the fact that this disruption is causing Ukraine to export less wheat onto global markets. So critical to view it in that context. This is not a military target. This is an attack on Ukraine's economy. And as I said, more grain infrastructure hit this morning. Leila?
And thank you, Claire, for contextualizing that for us. Now, President Zelensky, just back from the U.S. and Canada, announced a joint weapons production deal between the United States and Ukraine. What exactly do we know about this deal?
Yeah, we don't exactly know what format this will take at the moment. President Zelensky, of course, calling it historic. He actually said on Friday that several cooperation agreements had already been signed by one of his ministers when they were in the U.S., that cooperation had essentially already started. President Biden said that the U.S. would host a conference in the fall to bring together, representatives from Ukraine's defense industry, U.S. defense industry, and governments as well, so that they could figure out the sort of format of this. We've seen things like this with European defense companies, joint ventures being set up in Ukraine, working together on various things. And obviously for Ukraine, a key priority is now in the medium and long term to really bolster its own defense industry to create a deterrent, and also so it can be less reliant on its Western allies.
You're obviously sort of our eyes and ears when it comes to a lot of what's going on in Russia. Is the war impacting ordinary Russians now, hitting the economy? There are statistics that suggest it is. What are you seeing and hearing in terms of the impact on the home front?
You know, in a way, it's hard to judge this because, especially in the bigger cities where there is more coverage and more news and people, you know, on social media, the government is trying to say nothing is happening, you know, it's not important, life goes on. But I think if you look at the growing militarization of Russia, and it's really significant right now. The economy, yes, is being hit, but also you have school kids dressing up in military uniforms, running around with guns. You have a dance troupe, there's video, a dance troupe using rifles as they dance, and then denunciations of your neighbor for criticizing the war, not being able to even call the war a war. So I think even though there is that attempt to downplay the significance of this, it's creeping into every aspect of Russian life right now.